Welcome to another message from the Gospel of Mark, Kata Marcon. We've been studying about a deaf and dumb society. We talked about the inability to discern from right from wrong, crooked societies. And now we're going to go 8 and 22 is where we're going to start. 8:22, and we're going to read from the Amplified Bible to begin with. And we're going to go down, if I can get this page turned. It doesn't want to turn. It wants to turn 2 or 3 of them at a time. Eight 22. See what happens here. Then they came to Bethesda, and some people brought a blind man to Jesus and begged him to touch him. A blind man, now blind. Now here we go into real Messianic credentials. In the Old Testament, it says that the Messiah will heal the blind. This was a definite. No one ever healed a blind man. No one ever did. Never. No, the priests, no, the prophets of old, Elijah, Elisha, no one healed a blind man. They came to Bethesda, and some of the people brought a blind man to Jesus and kept on begging to touch him. Taking the blind man by the hand, he led him out to the village, out to the outside of the village. And after spitting on his eyes and laying his hands on him, he asked him, "Do you see anything?" And he looked up and said, "I see people, but they look like trees and walking around." This is the only place in the Bible where Jesus didn't do an instant healing. And there's a reason for it. He had to heal him 2 ways. Then again, Jesus laid his hands on his eyes, and the man stared intently, and his sight was completely restored, and he began to see everything clearly. And he sent him to his home, and saying, "Do not even enter the village." Do not even enter the village. Said it to his own, do not even enter into the village. Now let's look at this. 22. Kai erkantai, eis Bethesdaon, Kai Barusen, auto, tiflon, Kai parakalusen, auton, hina, auto, hopsete. This is the native city of Andrew and Peter now in Phillips. This is their native city. And they came, and the word is ace here, they came, erkantai, they, third person plural, present indicative middle voice, they did this on their own volition, unto Bethesda. But this word ace here means that they went all over Bethesda. And they kept on bearing, third person plural present indicative active, they kept on bearing to him and following him, according to that verb there, a blind one, a tiflon, a blind one, accusative singular masculine, and conjunction, and they kept on begging him. Third person plural present indicative active from parakalio. They kept on begging him, and that him there is accusative singular masculine third person pronoun, in order that him, genitive singular masculine third person pronoun, that he might hopsete. Hopsete. It starts with a rough breather. That alpha there has got a rough breather on it. Hopsete. Third person singular first aorist subjunctive middle voice. Now these verb tenses really mean something. The voices, tenses, and modes. That he might touch. And what they said here, that all he has to do is touch him. And that's first aorist. First aorist means like that. Just like that. All you have to do is touch him, just touch him like that, and he's going to be healed. Hopto is what it comes from, third person singular, first aorist, subjunctive, middle voice. All you have to do is just for yourself, just reach over there and touch him, and he will be healed. Verse number 23 now. and have kai epilambomenos, tes, karos, tu, tuflu, and neck, ex a necken, auton, hexo, tes, komes, kai, tosos, ace, ta, onamata, auto, epithes, tos, keros, auto, epi, rotao, rota that is, and auton, at, blepses. I need different glasses. I'm having a hard time seeing with these things. I got a different prescription, but I can't afford to buy them yet. I got to go someplace I can do it. And having laid hold upon him, nominally singular masculine, second aorist participle, middle voice, having laid hold of him by his own volition. He wanted to do this. Jesus wanted to do this. This is going to be the absolute, substantial, undeniable credentials that these Jews are asking for. That the Pharisees and the Herodians and the Sadducees and the Sakari, all of them. And having laid hold upon him for himself, it comes from epilambono, of the hand. He touched his hand of the blind man, of the blind one, and the kauros tuflu. The word tuflu there, there's a blind one there, but it doesn't say there is no there, blind one, but it's a practical substantive. It's there. The blind what? The blind one. Exe nekin. And he led, third person singular first aorist, indicative active, and he led him outside. Exo, outside of the village. Outside, that little preposition there, outside, tes komes, of the village, the little town. And having spit, tosos, nominative singular masculine first aorist participle active, comes from to'o. Having spit unto his eyes, spit in his eye. He spit in his eyes. Ace, the eyes, omata, the eyes belonging to him, auto, having laid upon the hands, having laid upon, nominative singular masculine, second aorist participle acting, having laid upon him, to him, and he kept on questioning him. He kept on interrogating him. Epiroto. Third person singular, imperfect indicative active. Him, if anything, look at there. Him, if, first class intent, since. He knows he can see. That's the first class conditional particle right there. A is epsilon iota. And that means condition determined as fulfilled. So they kept on interrogating him, or he kept on interrogating him since anything he might say. I want to know what you see. I know you see. What do you see? And he wanted to do this for us today. You know, Jesus Christ performed all the miracles to prove that he was Messiah. We don't need any more miracles today because we know Jesus is Messiah. But this is written for our sake right now. They did not know back then what was going on here. Jesus, first of all, healed his eyes. His eyes could see, except now he has to heal his brain. You know that children, after they get about 6 years old, we go into foreign countries and ophthalmologists go in there and they can do surgery on these kids and give them sight. But if a child gets up to the age of 6 years old, his brain will not, if his eyes see, all he's going to see is a blur, because you've got to interpret what your brain's got to interpret what your eyes see. And they got to go together, as a child grows up, he learns his perception of depth and all of this stuff, the movements, the colors, all of this. This is learned behavior when you're very young. If you take someone 5 or 6 years old and they don't have any communication with the brain from their eyes, if you fix their eyes, they still couldn't see. They could see, but they couldn't see. All they're going to see is what this guy saw. They're just going to see things moving around. All right, and he said to him, and he kept on questioning him, what do you see? What do you see? Would be a better way. What do you see? I know you see something. What do you see? And this is for us today. Today. Kai, anaplepsos, elegain, blepo, tous, anthropous, hote, hos, dendra, horo, peripatuuntos. Peripatuuntos. And having looked up, he kept on saying, now look at this word anaplepsis. That means ana is up, and blepo, and that comes from blepo, that means to look up. Having looked up, nominative, singular, masculine, first aorist, participle, and active. Having looked up, he kept on saying, I see, I see, I see. He saw. But the men, he could feel men around him, and he heard them walk before. Sometimes a person that's blind, his sense of hearing is very accelerated. Now, he heard men walking around before, but he never saw men. He said, I see the mankind that are because as trees, dendra. Dendra is tree. As trees. Agnomia. As trees. I see. Hora. The word horao there, it means perception and depth. I see man as trees, first person singular, present, indicative, active. Peripatontos. Peripatontos. Present, participle, active, accusative, plural, masculine. I see people walking around like trees. His brain was not healed yet. He could see his eyes work now, but his brain didn't work. He's got to heal his brain. He's got to take, however old this man was, he's got to take and just miraculously make his brain work with his eyes now. His eyes work, but his brain doesn't. Verse number 25 now. Eta, Pauline, Ethakin, tos, keros, epitus, ophthalmus, auto, kai, dia, blepsin, kai, apikateste, kai, anablepsin, te lugos, te logmos. Aponta. Then again, here we have this little adverb, then on there, eta, eta. Pauline, then again, he laid down, third person singular, first aorist, indicative, active, he laid down the hands upon the eyes. He's going to put his hands upon his eyes now, the ophthalmos. I said a while ago, I needed to go to an ophthalmologist to get and optometrist to get some glasses made for me, because I can't see very well. Well, this word ophthalmologist and optometrist all come from this word right here. Ophthalmos. And to the eyes of him, and third person singular, first aorist, indicative, it means he looked steadfastly. Now, he looked intently. He looked dramatically. And was completely restored. He never had eyes. He never could see before. And he kept on seeing clearly and plainly all things, everything. His eyes, his brain, everything were completely healed completely. He had 20/20 vision, maybe even better. He saw with all radiance, the word radiance there. All radiance. He could see up close, he could see far away. Now, what about all this? agnomia, this disease that he had, besides his eyes now work, but he had agnomia. His brain could not process what he was seeing, but now his agnomia is healed and his blindness is healed. His eyes are healed and his brain is healed, so he can understand what he's seeing. And he sees in every way, in depth and all ways. Now, when every one of these people, all of these people that Jesus healed, he healed the deaf and dumb man, he healed, raised the dead, everything, and every time that he did a healing, they had to go to a priest because, you know, the Jews looked upon if you were sick or something, God was after you, you were bad. And so they wouldn't let him go into the full service of the synagogue, so they had to stay outside. And all of them, when they were healed, and this man, when he was healed, he had to go to the priest in the local synagogue, and he had to say, hey, I can see. Now, they didn't want these people to be healed, because when they had to write a degree or a decree of healing, it meant that Jesus is Messiah.
Yeah.
It says Jesus is Messiah. He is the one. And so, they didn't like it. We find out that later on that this man was persecuted by the synagogue rulers. And then it says that Kai apestelen auton eis oikon auto lagon mede eis tain koimain eis elthes. He sent him home and told him not to go to the village. And he sent him, third person singular, first aorist, indicative active. That comes from apostello. Word apostello, apostle. The apostles were sent out with great divine authority. Now this man is being sent out with the same word. Jesus, the God of heaven, sends this man home. And he said, don't go to the village. Go home. You don't have to be led home anymore. You can go home. Can you imagine how many times people led this man back and forth to his house or wherever he went? Carry him on their arm, making sure he wasn't fall down or anything at all. He said, go home, saying, do not enter into the village. He was not permitted to go into the village and create excitement before Jesus came. This man would prove that Jesus is Messiah. But he told him, don't you go in the village, and they see what I did for you. You just go home, straight home. Don't go in the village. Now the disciples are learning also. They're learning also. Peter makes a statement. Kai exel thane ho esus kai ho mathete auto estos koimos Caesarios tes Philippu kai en te odo epirotatos mathete auto lagon atois. Tina me lugusen ho anthropoi ene. And he went forth to Jesus. And the disciples, his habitual runners, the close ring of circle of disciples around him, belonging to him, auto, unto the village of Caesarea, of the Philippi, Caesarea Philippi. And in the way, in the road, he kept on questioning him, third person singular, imperfect, indicative active, the disciples, saying to him, whom me they say the mankind to be? What worth do they place on me? What did these people say? The last message I did was a deaf and dumb society. The man was deaf and dumb, he couldn't hear, and he touched his tongue, and he began to speak clearly. But those around him were questioning Jesus, show us a miracle, show us a miracle. Prove who you are. Well, what did he just do? They were deaf and dumb. They couldn't see, they couldn't hear. And then he told his disciples, you have eyes to see and ears to hear, but you don't see and you don't understand. Because the Pharisees had eyes to hear, or to see, and ears to hear, but they didn't want to understand. No matter what he did, he raised the dead. He healed the blind. Messianic credential only. He healed lepers. He created bread and fish. What else did they need to see? What else? What could he have done to make them believe? A person can't believe if he doesn't want to. You know, in Ephesians 2 and 8 says, for in grace you're having been saved through faith, and not of yourself, as a gift of God. The Spirit of God was working on these people, but they were fighting the Spirit of God by the power of Satan. Look at old Herod. Herod was convicted greatly by John the Baptist preaching. He had taken his brother's wife and living with her, and she was a harlot, so to speak. She trained her daughter to be a harlot. And he put John the Baptist in prison for what we call safekeeping. Safekeeping. He put him in for protective custody because he knew his wife would have a Sicarii or somebody kill him. And then he has this birthday party, and his wife has her daughter trained as a courtesan. A courtesan is somebody who can dance and sing and permit promiscuous activity, take part in it. Well, she danced, and he was so excited, and the guests were so excited at her promiscuous dancing, that he said, ask unto me and the half of my kingdom, I'll give it to you. And her mother told him, ask for John the Baptist's head on a platter, a serving platter. And she did. And the story was all over with. He had to have John the Baptist killed, and they brought his head in. She went on dancing and smiling, and his wife went on smiling because she was avenged because he insulted her. He insulted her. Instead of repenting, she killed. Instead of repenting, she killed. Now, when a person won't repent, when a person won't believe, they're killing their own souls. They are liable to the second death. They go into hell forever. They don't die and go out of existence into ether, into nirvana, into nothing land and nothingness. They don't go unconscious and what we call the death sleeping. Sleeping. They are conscious. When you leave this world, you are conscious. You go to heaven or hell, one or the other. These people were condemning themselves to eternal hell when they didn't believe Jesus. Our Father, we send this message out. Please use it for your honor and glory. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this year that you gave me, another year to preach your word. I tried to do the best I could this year and be productive because you give it to me to live. The next year, starting in just a few minutes, I'll see what you have for me to do, what you allow me to do. Father, please forgive me where I fail you. I pray for all of my students out there, wherever they are, Nancy and Donald, and well, there's so many out there, Mark, just so many for me to even, Gary, just from coast to coast and around the world, Australia, Japan, India. I pray that you touch all our lives with your word. Thank you for giving us this ability to do it too.